I think one of the silliest historical myths out there is that people in the past were somehow dirty and had poor hygiene. But that's how lots of movies and TV shows choose to depict people, especially poor people. Even Monty Python have mocked this. Each culture has different practices depending on time and place, but think of people living in the Italian Renaissance. How did they clean their bodies? Hello, lovely history fans. I'm Dr. Julia Martins and I'm a historian of gender and medicine. I study how the body was understood in the past and how that shapes the present. So let's dive into the world of early modern hygiene. And if you would like to support me and my channel, make sure to like and subscribe. So bodily hygiene was intimately connected to health and medicine, arguably even more so than to the world of beauty and cosmetics. So what was Renaissance hygiene like? Well, to start with, people understood the very idea of hygiene differently. It meant removing the impurities that constantly came out of the body, rather than merely getting rid of the dirt deposited on the body's surface. The focus was on what came from the inside, not just the outside of the body. In the Renaissance, it was believed that food was digested and then concocted in the stomach and transformed into blood and other corporeal matter. The residues from that process were excreted from the body through the ears, eyes, nose, mouth, scalp, and the pores of the skin. If these impurities remained in the body, they could create obstructions and trigger illness. Hygiene was then closely linked to medicine, so daily hygiene focused on preventing illness through the care of the body, especially the skin and the hair. So morning toilette became a central part of healthcare. We often think of combing or brushing the hair as part of styling it, and although that was certainly important too, in the Renaissance these practices were also considered part of hygiene, as combs would remove the excrements from the head. Men increasingly visited barbers who treated their beards and their hair, but also nails, ears, teeth, and the skin of the upper body in general. So this was a period in which objects connected to health proliferated, especially combs. Because combs would be in close contact with excrement, the excrement from the scalp, it was advised that people don't share them, and even that men use different combs for the hair and for the beard to avoid contamination. Ear cleaners and toothpicks were popular too. Wealthy people could even have them made of precious materials, such as ivory, and encrusted with jewels. Special soaps and herbal washes were recommended to clean the head and the hair, although you should proceed with caution. Washing the hair was potentially dangerous, especially during pregnancy, and pregnant people were advised to clean their hair with powders and combs. So that's not very different to the dry shampoo that many of us use today. There were even tales of miscarriages being caused by hair washing during pregnancy, which meant, of course, that the pregnant person could then be blamed for the loss of pregnancy. And fun fact, I still heard from my grandmother growing up in Brazil that you should avoid washing your hair when you had your period, as it could cause period pain. So, not completely forgotten as we might hope. In terms of bathing, baths shouldn't be too long or frequent, and the water shouldn't be too cold or too hot, but tepid. Bathing could bring health hazards with it, as the wet body left the water and the cold air touched the open pores. Afterwards, the person should rest to help the body recover. And as other forms of bodily hygiene were adopted, bathing became increasingly less popular, although medicinal baths for specific conditions continued to be used. Bathtubs just fell out of fashion, and they started to become rare in domestic environments. On the other hand, basins, sewers, and towels became increasingly popular for washing the face and the hands, which makes sense in a period in which many diseases were believed to be transmitted by the contact with other people's hands. With these transformations, the distinction between the medical hygiene of the body and the world of cosmetics and beauty virtually disappeared. But one of the main ways of keeping the body clean had to do with clothing. Even though most people didn't bathe as often as we do today, although there are records of people washing daily, they cleansed their bodies in other ways. The main one, and the one most foreign to us when we think of bodily hygiene today, was probably changing their bed linens and linen underclothes often, as they collected residues expelled by the body. So this was particularly important for people who menstruated, as you can imagine. And as the medical writer Petronio explained in 1602, the bath was the discovery of the ancients for keeping the body fresh and clean, for since they did not have the custom of wearing linen garments. They were apt to become covered in dirt of all kinds. But in our times, since all, rich and poor alike, are accustomed to wear shirts and thereby more easily keep the body clean, the bath is neither so widely nor frequently employed as in the times of the ancients. If the body expelled excrement through the pores of the skin, these impurities were absorbed by the clothing, which meant that changing the bedding and undergarments regularly was believed to be superior to washing, according to many health medical books and domestic manuals of the time, although baths were recommended for children under 5 years old. In any case, men were largely believed to be cleaner than women, especially because of the things natural to women, menstruation. Female bodies were imagined as being particularly leaky, and so they needed further care, further hygiene. Plus, with their hair often being longer, women needed to take special care to remain clean. And female bodies were believed to be much more susceptible to illness and disease, again highlighting the connection between hygiene and health. The cleansing of the body in Renaissance Italy was about more than personal care, it was a matter of health. This meant that newly created spaces in houses, such as dressing rooms, became ever more important, and objects such as combs and brushes did as well. Linen underwear also became virtually omnipresent. Although the Renaissance way of keeping the body clean might be different from our contemporary standards, it's undeniable that people took hygiene seriously, and they tried their best to keep the body in good health, just like us. And if you liked this video and if you're interested in history, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you.